If you missed today's webinar presentation about Patreon, don't worry. I'm going to share it here because it was just so powerful. The power of sharing or exploring your own creative narrative, it is impactful. And I just wanted to share today's walkthrough and a little journey through Patreon, but also stay through to the end because the stories are pretty freaking amazing.
All right. So, I've kind of narrowed it down to five reasons why I thought Patreon was kind of life changing for me. And I wanted to share that with you too. I don't think everybody knows what, first of all, Patreon is or how to pronounce it. So I thought maybe just in narrowing it down to five main points. Like I said, pronouncing it, I've had people say all kinds of things like, what the hell is this Patreon? Or this patron, but basically it comes from the word patron. So patron saint of the arts, people that supported the artists from a long time ago, and basically I like to describe it as this awesome person who I have no idea who they are said artists have no business trying to dabble in technology, and we want to give them a place where they can have a community and share their artwork, whether it's as a creator, a musician or a painter or whatever. We want to create this space, and this is what Patreon is, this technical world that's already done. They designed this platform where artists can have a community for a subscription and share their art. And so on there, and I share this because it gets confusing later, but I'm called a creator. You're a creator. I'm a creator. We're all creators. But when you search, like, I want to know if Donna Downey's on here, or if I want to find another artist, you would search for a creator on there. And so I'm a visual learner. So I thought, how else to describe what Patreon really is? So I like to describe it as this big, awesome urban place, this hipster cool building. And each one of those windows you see there are artist studios. You might have a poet and a musician and a gamer and a podcaster and all these different artists, but it's housed in this one building. And each artist has their own studio space in there, only it's in the computer, so it's in the virtual world. And so if you think of it virtually, if you go to Patreon, there's all these different art studios. You walk into this building, and I'm just one of the studios on this Patreon platform. So what is it again? It is basically a membership platform that makes it possible so that creators like me can keep creating content for their community, but your patronage, your subscription also supports me and basically is giving me an income so that I can continue being an artist and continue producing art. And I put this hard truth in there because I don't think it's pretty, but it is important to say. I think, as times changed, that I look to my patrons basically as a gift of hope, because if it wasn't for my Patreon account and the people that supported me, I would not have made it through COVID. I would have lost everything. And basically, my patrons helped keeping me rebuilding my life and being an artist. So, gift of hope. All right. So what happens there? All this blah, 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 what it is. But basically on Patreon, there's a couple things. There's dozens of unique things there, benefits that I do just for that community. And the first of which is basically every month I am producing brand new content that is just for Patreon. These are lessons, tutorials, color studies. But also I'm incorporating challenges and polls and discounts and a whole lot more. But that's new every month. So it's never like you subscribe and it's a one-time thing. Every month I'm producing content, kind of like it's my job. And this includes, which I think is a cool thing, which kind of goes unanswered sometimes. When you subscribe, let's say you subscribe for the month of November, you don't just get what's new stuff I've put out for November. You get anything and everything that I've done up until November. So it's kind of like me handing you the key to my studio and saying, hey, go ahead on in whenever you want. It's not just that you subscribe for the month and you only get the month. You get access, a key into the studio, which is that virtual place where all my lessons are. I started incorporating art critiques basically because of the pandemic, because there were so many people in a vacuum, like I was talking about, and they just needed some feedback. What am I doing? Do I like this? What's sitting wrong? Business insider tips. Again, the virtual world became a necessity because of the pandemic. And so I wanted to really help those artists that were hobbyists, but really wanting to move to some sort of professional capacity, or maybe just a side hustle, or maybe just some extra income to support their habit. But just in figuring out ways to transition all that stuff that I wish somebody had told me before. And then I do some exclusive merchandise for subscriptions, and I also do a whole tier that includes original artwork in the mail. And then, basically it is like that idea of me giving you a key to the studio. It's an intimate experience. It's an engaged community. And there's really nothing that I had ever done before this, having a website or even having social media. They're both different ends of the spectrum, but this kind of is in the middle that combines both of those things. And I thought, well, I could sit here and talk all day about what I do over there, or I could just share some just clips of some lessons that I do. I do a lot of mixed media. I do a lot of color study. I work in journals. I work in canvases. I've done sculpture and altered books. And so, when you subscribe on Patreon, you're basically, I can't sit still when it comes to staying in a lane as far as artwork is concerned. I've got to break it up. I've got to work differently. I work in different mediums. So now I've just added watercolor to my repertoire of things I'm playing with. But I kind of like to just work all over and share that ultimately, like, all the ducks in one basket, kind of ducks in one basket, eggs in one basket. I put ducks in baskets over there on Patreon. There's even some encaustic and some kind of off the cuff stuff that I don't normally do in there. All right. So how much does it cost? This is also that big question. And I like the answer is that you get to decide. And what that means is when you subscribe for any tier, you are deciding what you want to get out of it. So I've kind of gone through a little synopsis of what the tiers are. And this fan tier, I like to call it the entry level tier. And this is my lower tier, but it really was to answer all of those people that were really wanting me to bring Inspiration Wednesday back. This was an art journaling, a very intuitive art journaling thing that I did. I used to launch it on Wednesdays, but now that it launches on the first of the month, I don't call it Inspiration Wednesday. I call it Inspiration Any Day. And so this tier was really for those people that really want to take advantage of the art journaling. I call it the art journaling tier, but it really includes a lot more. But it's not the meat of the subscription. It's kind of like Patreon Lite. The follower tier is that meat tier. It's the most popular. Basically, all the tutorials, all the lessons, everything that I'm doing gets thrown in here, anything creatively. And each tier, as they go up, includes the tier before it. So the $5 tier is included in the content in the $20 tier. And this is also a really interesting tier because when I do exclusives, I usually, like right now, I have a class that I'm doing called Small Works. And when you are a follower tier subscriber or higher, you get $20 off the cost of your workshop. So people at this tier can kind of almost get their tier free, get access to this when they do other things. So, all right, the member tier is the one I was talking about that I added in for those people that were looking to break away from just being a hobbyist and maybe learn how to market themselves or move towards making an income. This includes anything from how do I get into galleries? How do I write an artist statement? Scheduling your time, framing your artwork, all of those business insider tips that you might need, right up into some marketing tips for social media, email blasts, and things like that. But this one is the one that also includes artist critiques. And then this also has a monthly art challenge included with it. And again, it includes the $20 tier and the $5 tier content as well. The collector tier, I have to give credit to Edie, and she will come up in a photo in a later slide. But when the pandemic hit, she said, I just want to support you. I want to make sure that you're successful. And so I created this collector tier really for her. But it was a tier that included everything that came before it. And the only way that I could say thank you for those people that subscribe to this tier is to include a small original piece of artwork every month. So in this tier, these patrons get a piece of original artwork in the mail every month. And then this is my latest tier, which came out of a missing space in what I was thinking communities needed. So I do mentoring, and some people just were not ready for like full on mentoring. They wanted something that was a transitional place. So I just created this tier so that these patrons could get access to all of the content, the business information, but this one also includes a 1 hour Zoom call every month where we set goals, work on building strategies for success, and it's a one-on-one contact. And then throughout the month, I say it's a 1 hour coaching, but I'm in constant communication with my patrons at this tier to just make sure they're hitting their goals and if they need support. All right. So I think flexibility makes Patreon unique. Um, you can access it on your schedule. Like I said, here's the key, go in anytime you want. But more importantly, I think this is cool. So you can move fluidly between tiers. So if you decide, all right, I'm going to sign up today at the $5 tier. You pay $5 and you have access to all the content from that $5 tier. And then you go tomorrow, you know what? I think I'm going to go to the $20 tier. You paid $5. If you want to upgrade, you're going to pay 15 more dollars because that's the difference between the two tiers. And now you immediately have access to all the $20 content. But let's say you want to, after 3 months, go back down to the $5 tier. Maybe you want to move up. You just go in there and I'll show you how you go in there and change it or where you go. But you can move fluidly between the tiers. And you can also say, hey, I've got 3 months where I've got some extra time, but I don't have extra time for the next 4 months. And you can kind of move in and out of the tiers. You are not locked in, which brings me to my last one. There are no commitments. So who are my patrons? So they come from all different walks of, come on now, don't play with me. Let's pretend that didn't happen. And go. Okay. So they come from all different walks of life, all different age groups. They come from all over the world. I have patrons literally on every continent. I have brand new beginners that are just starting out and have seen something. Maybe kind of like you were saying, Linda, how you heard from someone else that maybe it would be interesting. I also have seasoned professional artists that are as part of my Patreon. And they're at all different tiers. Some have been there with me from the beginning, some are brand new. It's just a really good collection of artists. And that's why I like to call it a community. It's a family because it is not something that's exclusive, it's very inclusive. And then I just reached out to some of my tiers just to see if they had any words for people that were wondering what happened on Patreon. And this is Dorothy. She's at my $5 tier. And basically, she just wanted to be involved in what was happening. So she wanted to support me, but she also didn't want to miss anything. So she wanted to say just how she wanted to be a part of what was going on in my creative life. Debbie has been with me for, I think, the beginning of my artistic career. And she just wants to make sure that she can be a part of things too. And she always tells me that I look forward to every time there's a post because you get a little email every time I post, like I posted this today, come check it out. Ellen has been a student of mine that came to many of my in-person workshops. And so she also wanted to make sure that she did not miss anything. She takes full advantage of my challenges, and she's always a great part of the community and commenting on other people's content. Edie was who I mentioned earlier. She is the one I created the collector tier for, who just said, I will be with you wherever you go. And then Cindy, she signed on for the mentoring because she's really looking for the accountability, the push, the feedback on her own creative journey. And she really likes the challenge and it's keeping her accountable for keeping on that path. So I started this by saying the 5 ways. So I had to break it down into these 5 ways that I really think that it's important. And I think it's important maybe even outside of Patreon. But community, I think that that was one of the biggest things that I got out of it. I felt like it was a collective and there was a lot of different voices, and I like the inclusivity of that. And just the idea of being in a vacuum, that it doesn't have to be that way. Exclusive content, we've talked a little bit about how the work that I do for Patreon does not get shared anywhere else. And there's exclusive perks to being a subscriber on there, from discounts to merchandise. This is probably one of my favorite ones, co creation. As I've kind of grown in my creative process. I think when I started out, it was a very one way exchange. I did an online class, people took the online class. Sure, they could email me, but there wasn't any of that direct correspondence or accountability after somebody bought an online workshop. And I really liked that this creates this co creation where it's cyclical. I create something, you create something, you share it, we share the whole process together. So this was something that was very exciting to me. All access, like I was saying, here's the key: you get to access whenever you want. You get to be a part of the downloads. A lot of times I will include specific downloads, even if I do something public, like when we do the color collab, you get the exclusive downloads only on Patreon. And there's coaching and art challenges and so much more than just lessons. And then the supporter of the arts. I mean, it's kind of the white elephant in the room, but it really is part of the exchange between you and I. And it helps me to support things like hardware and software and web hosting and all those kinds of things that maybe go unnoticed as a independent artist. So how do I access Patreon? All right. So basically I told you that Patreon is the house and then I'm a studio in there. So it's patreon.com/Donna Downey. This is not something that's part of my website. It's separate building, separate computer space where you would go to Patreon and find all different types of artists. And so when you go to Patreon, you will see that you'll have a landing page, and I put that up there. That's where I live. But there's also some things I wanted to point out. Find a creator. That's what I talked about at the beginning, about like it's confusing. I'm a creator, you're a creator. But this is where you would search for other artists that you might want to follow on there. And then logging in. I mentioned this because a lot of times I will get people that are frustrated. They're like, I can't access your content. And it's literally because they just haven't logged in to their account. You have to log in order to access your memberships. And so I just bring that up because it's a silly thing, I know, but sometimes it's just so simple to forget. You go there, you're always logged in, and one day it kicks you off. All right. And so once you log in, you can put a little picture up there of yourself if you'd like. But I was talking about memberships. This manage memberships, this is where you're going to go in and you're going to be able to change your membership, upgrade, downgrade, support other artists and see how many artists you support. This is kind of your kind of personal hub. And these are the tiers. So just kind of giving you that brief overview again. We talked about them earlier, but there's some things on here when you go there that you might not see right off. I did add an annual membership. This is something that you do sign up for a year, but you save 10%. And each one has it. But also underneath each one of these sections is a little video. This was one of those like mind blown moments where I was like, duh. One of the people that was in one of these presentations said, I've gone there, but how do I know what I want to sign up for? I can't access anything without a subscription. I was like, so I created these little videos for each tier specifically, where it's kind of like this, where I talk about each tier, but I show like examples and videos, snapshots and stuff like that of what you'll find in that tier. And then the last thing was just merch. You'll see that some tiers, if you subscribe for 3 months, you might get a t-shirt, you might get a sticker, you might get a poster. And these are things that I design, upload, and Patreon will mail out to all of my patrons at that tier for 3 months. Right now, there are 254 posts I have on there. So if you sign up, you have access immediately to those types of things. Now, of course, you don't have access to everything from every tier. The $5 tier will unlock all 254 of those. As you tier up, you will unlock more, but that's how much content is there already that you can immediately access. It's not just for the month only. And then this is just some fun navigational things that I think when you go to a new place, it might be like hard to navigate through it. But I wanted to share this with you. So it reads, Patreon reads like a blog. And if you remember the days of blogs, you'd scroll up to see the next post and things like that. Well, that's a 254 posts is a lot to scroll through. So I've done some things to segment it and organize it a little bit. So there's some things that are built in. You can check things by media type. I know there was a video, or I know there was an image or something like that. Or tier. I want to see the only things that are at the $5 tier. I don't want to see anything else. And then you can separate it by tier. Or month. You can say, I know that it was something that Donna posted last month, so let me look up October. Obviously, in the search post, you can type in anything you want here and search if you remember the exact topic or the exact title. And then there is this little area here that says 52 more. When you click it, it kind of opens up this link. And these are tags that I've added to make your search easier. So if you were like, I want to find all the art challenges that are on there, you can click right here and nothing but art challenges will come up. I want to access all the business tips or altered book or exclusive offers or sculpture, figurative, small works, things like that. Just another way to filter through the content there. The other things that I've done, there are these boxes across the top. So if you're like, I just want to see the Inspiration Any Day posts, I just want to see all of them. I think there's actually 29 now. This was an older photo. I know it's 27 now. So I did just take this today. 27 posts, just click there. This is just the Inspiration Any Day. But you can see for the $5 tier, there's actually 71 posts. 27 of them are Inspiration Any Day. So if you're a fan, at the $5 tier, you can click here and just see your content, the follower content, the member content. And then this section here, this is all the public content. So you don't even have to have a subscription to access this stuff here. There is a goal I have set on there. I'm hoping that one day I will reach 500 patrons. I was hoping I would have it by the end of this year, but I'm not giving up. And then, so the goal is basically, if I reach this goal, then I'm going to do something. And for the 500 patrons, I'm going to release, right now I do one Inspiration Any Day a month, and I will just start doing 2 for that achievement. And so basically, I wanted to just share with you, because I know that it's a new platform and it can get confusing anytime we do stuff new, but I just wanted to have this to open up, answer questions, and kind of see where you're at in the process of going to Patreon, if you follow any other artists, or if you just have general questions. So I open the floor to you guys. Go ahead, Linda.
It's fascinating. I've on in another membership. I don't know if you know Louise Fletcher's work, but yours is seems has more depth to it. Although I love her work and appreciate that membership, and I'd like to hear a little bit about your own philosophy about being an artist in the creative process. I mean, if I were going to work with you, just kind of to see if kind of our approach or our way of viewing things are the same, or at least
I love that.
similar. So, yeah.
Thank you, Linda. So my personal philosophy has changed over the past few years, to be honest. My personal philosophy is that I really believe that art is something that can't be taught. I believe art is something that we feel. I believe it's something we share. It's an exchange. And so the idea of building a community is opening up that conversation. And so I believe you're perfect the way you create. but you have to learn to ask the questions of what do I want to learn more of? And that's where I like to join in the conversation. It's building a better, stronger foundation for living an artistic life than it is learning the most techniques you can and acquiring the things. I don't know if that answered your question at all.
Oh, well, I like that. One thing that stood out about what you said is building a stronger artistic foundation. Because I do think for me, I can get into a strategy trap where I think, oh, if I just learn how to use this or that. But what I've come to know, and I'm still working on it, is how to access that deeper intuitive artistic foundation in myself that then doesn't matter if I have the right tool, still going to come through. But I like the idea of being in community and exchanging with other artists as to how they find it as an enriching part of being alive.
And I'll be honest with you too, Linda. It wasn't until probably 4 years ago where I realized how much I was a better person for allowing other artists, other people into my conversation. I think it was real easy to get into this focus of, I've got to be better. I've got to do this. I've got to stay good. I can't make bad art. That confidence trap, even I'll call it. And it wasn't until I allowed the periphery in that art became a narrative, a dialogue. And so I think when we find ourselves in the direct exchange of like, here, I have content, I do tutorials. YouTube is great. I have done a lot of things on YouTube, included changed my oil because of a YouTube video, but there is not an exchange. It's like, I've learned something new and then I walk away. And then what do I do after that? What's the moment that happens when that is gone? And that's why I would reference the online classes. I did that forever. And I don't think that they're bad either. I even still listen to online classes and hear them in the background. But there is this beautiful moment when you've taken the information and then it's like, how do I bring it to the next step? And that's where I feel like that's where I live. I live in that next step. I want to forever be in that next step of now, where do we go and how far can we take it? So
thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else? I mean, it's kind of hard to beat that question. That was a good one.
I have a question. I'm not on video. This is Tess.
No problem, Tess.
Yeah. Hi. I actually I'm doing the Artist's Way. It's never too late to begin again course right now. Yeah. And one of the questions was, I secretly want to, or something like that. And to make a long story short, I feel called to create some sort of visual art poetry, something. I don't even know what it is yet. And I realized that I do best when I have some kind of community of peers and some kind of structure around or context in which to explore and develop myself. So then, your email comes in. I thought, oh, well, I'll check that out. And I actually, with my sister, came and took a watercolor workshop. She lives in Asheville. So I've been to your studio before COVID. So right now I'm just exploring. I also do really love to support artists. And so I just thought I would check out what you're doing. And I'm just curious to know, how much camaraderie is there amongst your followers? And if I'm looking and hoping to find some peeps to we each have our own individual journey, but to not be on it so alone. Would there be support for me as I'm exploring and finding out what my creative voice vision is?
That's another great question. So yes, but it really depends on your effort. So I have started doing in the past, I would say 4 months, I started doing some things I call happy hour. So every other month, I just come up here, we drink whatever you want, and I turn the camera on and show up if you want to show up. And this is just for my patrons. And it's kind of where I like to say we shoot the shit, we talk about stuff. It's almost like in the back. I don't know if you remember the days of like the scrapbooking crops. You go into a big room, you're working on whatever you're working on, you're probably chatting more than you're creating.
Yes.
And it's kind of like where the friendships start, because you start to see people, right? Like not you,
Yes.
Tess, because your camera's not on. But
I know. Well, I'm not even
saying.
dressed today.
I'm just saying. But like in this type of Zoom setting, it's really easy to decide if you want to be a part of the conversation. And just like in person, there's always I like to say an Ellen in the room. And Ellen was one of the people she's always the party person. She's like reaching out. She's got some crazy headpiece on and you can't miss her. And it's like you get to see the same faces. So it's one way. It's non dependent on your creativity. It's just basically a gathering.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is that I do open studios. So for this month, actually, we're doing an open studio where I take usually a color study. So I'm doing the idea of reds because I have 4,000 tubes of reds and I don't know why they're different. And so I was like, I'm sure you all have this. And so let's start playing with them in a journal. So again, it's not like we're all going to make this keep up, do this. It's kind of like a lower maintenance. You can work along with me, you can hang out. And I find probably, I'm going to say 70% of the time, people show up to watch. It's always recorded. So they can watch it and work with it if they want later, but they're coming for that connection and they talk amongst themselves. It's like in a classroom.
Mm-hmm.
I also am doing, which I haven't announced yet, so I'll kind of tell you guys here, I'm going to start doing art coaching. So if you're subscribed at the $49 tier, this is free group coaching. I'm going to take 6 people. The first session will be January 4th, and then it will be the next, those 4 Tuesdays of January, where I am asking that everybody, and it's free, and it's just for 6 people, the first 6 people, that you have to commit to showing up each week. And that literally group coaching as far as whatever it is you need. It's not me telling you what you need. It's an atmosphere of development. And of course, something as simple as the comments in chatting like that. But I find that it's in these subsets. And of course, I do Zoom online workshops. So if you're at the $20 tier, you're getting $20 off those classes. You see kind of the same faces. It builds a community because you start seeing the same faces, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
And then it does depend on where you want to take it. So there's no forced community. It's just kind of the opportunity is there. You just got to see if it fits.
Yeah. That sounds good. And is this group coaching, could it be for somebody who's really a beginner?
It has nothing to do with skill.
Okay.
It has everything to do with this group setting. And I just actually personally finished my second group setting session for myself with other Patreon creators. So it wasn't even for like in there was podcasters and just for the idea of being a creator and making your work public and always being on.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a setting where we didn't have anything in common outside of just being a producer of content. And I found that if there is no commonality really at all, it ends up being, once you talk, there's so much commonality. Like,
I know.
So no, it's not dependent on your development or even, it's not even dependent on a goal setting thing. It's more taking you where you are now and building the best confidence and strategy and support system, because we would there was 6 of us. There was 6 of us in both settings, and we just kept communication from there. Like, I have no business talking to a horror podcaster. I don't even listen to podcasts, but yet we still have this communication.
Right. If when people gather together in group, there's often interesting commonalities that you could not have planned for. But
Exactly.
essentially what I'm looking, I know that I am great and much better at showing up when I have some kind of an appointment or other people who want me to show up, who have some interest in what I'm doing, and then I can have an interest in what they're doing, so that I grow the best in that kind of context. So that sounds pretty interesting to me. I look forward to, are you going to be sending out a notice about that? Or
Yeah, I don't want to send it out too soon because January seems like an eternity away, yet it's right around the corner. And
Right.
so I am probably going to talk about it at the end of this month and then open up the registration in November. And then it's not going to be my last one either. It's going to be a 4-week session with that
Mhm.
one group. But then I'll open up another one. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's going to be kind of an ongoing, yet it doesn't always have to be the same group.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for answering my question.
And I have to say,
lovely.
Tess, I think what you said about if I have something on my calendar that says I have to go is literally half the battle. I
Right.
do
I
that
mean,
all the time.
the appointments we make with ourselves sometimes, it just really depends on how we're wired. But
Agreed.
I'm definitely wired to show up for other people, and sometimes I don't. When it's just an appointment with myself, it's just not the same. So, I mean, those
Agreed.
are good too. But yeah,
Well, and that's kind of why I wanted to build this community, because it's not, I don't become a better artist by not having that shared experience. And I wanted, and that was a big change for me too. Like, I had to grow into what I'm saying here. I wasn't born this way. I was, kind of learning this over the past couple months, that I became a better human, a better artist, a better person if I shared my experience through, if somebody needed it, but also that exchange of art concept. No matter at what level we are, that discussion became way more valuable.
okay, great, thank you.
Hmm. Anybody else? I mean, these are
I
great
have
comments.
I have some comments. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I'm not sure who's talking. Is that
It's
Olivia?
Olivia. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah,
No
I
worries.
didn't want to be distracting. I'm doing some collage stuff, and I figured it would be too distracting if I'm moving
No
around.
worries.
Yes, I'm so glad that this popped up in my email. I've followed you and your work and just everything for a while. And it was just one of those synchronous things where I thought, okay, I'm just clicking on this. Um, I'm an artist. I'm a fine art photographer and artist. And just the other day, somebody asked me yet again a question to pick my brain, which I don't mind. I don't mind helping people, but it's to the point now that people are constantly asking me, and it's like I have to do something and I can't just give stuff away for free. And so I've been sitting with this for a couple of days, like, how can I do this, or what should I do? And then your email came up. And now I'm listening to what you're saying, and it's resonating so much for me right now. So first, I just want to say thank you. um, but it's just, I think a lot of artists struggle with going to this level like you are, doing this with Patreon, and what am I trying to say? It's just like this light bulb moment for me right now.
Well, Olivia, I think you just touched on something that I missed to say too. Anybody can have a Patreon account. Every artist. It's not like you have to have credentials for something. Starting a community, it's not easy to get those subscribers. But building this place is not something that you shouldn't do. Like every artist should have a Patreon account.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
then when you get asked those questions, you can be listening to what do people want from me. And that's kind of how I developed my tiers. I didn't come out of the game. They were developed, I had like this $5 and $20 tier, and then but I have questions about how do I write an artist statement? How do I market myself on Instagram? How do I make business cards? What should be on them? Like all these things,
Yes.
those questions that you probably had to go through hurdles and pain and searching to figure out. It's not like you want it for your own. It's just that it would be great to not give it away for free.
Yeah. The School of Hard Knocks is still a school.
Yeah, it's definitely a school.
Yeah.
Had you heard of Patreon before? Had you been thinking about it?
I had, and I think I actually may have set up an account a while ago. I've just come off of a 5-year nomadic adventure journey.
That's my dream.
Yeah, I didn't have it planned, but I decided to roll with it. And it's been amazing. I'm actually in Maine right now at an artist residency. I just came back from Canada for 10 months. And so a lot of people are following me on Instagram for that, just because of this whole travel aspect. And I'm not doing it the van life way. I'm doing it a very different way. My car's packed up. I don't have a permanent home. I sold my place 5 years ago. And so I've got this following of people very curious, one, about my lifestyle, and then two, about my art, because my art's been in places like anthropology and stuff. But I feel like I've been very subdued about it, and I feel like I need to not be anymore, because people will say, how can I get my art there? Or how can I do this or that? And I want to help people. But again, like I said, I don't want to shortchange myself, because these past 2 years have been hard on artists. So
I feel like your narrative is powerful. Like, I think you're downplaying probably what the impact of this past 5 years has been for you just in this conversation. But I mean, that's power. That's like raw empowerment that you're talking about. And I can't think of anything but right down to so I don't know if you've checked it out, but like even right down to podcasts, even if you were talking, like driving and talking, or, there's so much to what you're doing. It almost feels like it could tick every vehicle to tell your story way.
I need to just do that. I've been very private about it. When I started 5 years ago, I was more out there about it. And I actually did. I was driving so much from this place to that place. I should contact Subaru and have them
Hell yeah.
Because it's all been in my Subaru. But I would do voice recordings while I was driving, and thoughts would come to my head. And then at some point I stopped, and I began kind of letting Instagram be my journal in a way. But there's something magical that happens when you're actually speaking, and it's this flow of words out of your mouth from your brain.
Instagram is amazing, but it's not the storyteller, because this is what happens on Instagram. It has to be the right image at the right time with the right audience kind of thing. I honestly think that Patreon was made for people like you that are not wanting to do the technical aspects of building a website, of building all of this stuff. Give me a place where I can tell my story and share my content and build a community. And, again, this is uncomfortable to talk about anytime we talk about money, but hell, who wouldn't want to support somebody living a nomadic lifestyle who is, that support? That's what you would be building, right? Like, it's not like give me money, it's support this storytelling.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. I've had some people And I can tell, and it tells me more about them than anything. People will, when they find out what I've done or how I was living, they'll either say, "Oh, that's so cool. I wish I could do that," or "That's my dream." Or then I'll have people that will just look at me with a blank face and say, "Oh, so you're a hobo." It's- so it's been really quite the experience, just how people react to the situation. But I'm thankful. I'm
Mm.
thankful that it happened. I mean, I like I said, it wasn't planned. It kind of was put on me, and I guess 5 years ago I could have. I sold my place, and my next place fell through. My car was packed to go there, and I could have just turned around and said, "Oh well, I'll just go into an apartment now." But instead, I thought I'll travel 2 weeks and figure out what to do, and then I just didn't stop. So
Hell, Olivia, this is a made for TV movie. I don't know why you're laughing. I think
uh,
this is fabulous. I would read this book.
wow. Can I tell? I'm sorry, I don't mean to monopolize this. Can I tell you one of my favorite stories from it?
Yes.
It was right at the beginning, and my car was literally so loaded, my Subaru Forester, I could hardly see out of it. My gas mileage was awful because my car was so weighted down. I happened to be in New York. I'm from Ohio. I happened to be in New York at that time in the Finger Lakes region, and it was Columbus Day weekend, and it was places were hard to find to stay. And I thought, oh my God, I might have to sleep in my car, but I can't because it's full. So I pulled up into this Goodwill in Ithaca, New York, and I thought, I have to have a come to Jesus with myself because I don't need all this stuff in my car that was meant to go to a place in Michigan. Like, I can't do anything with this. So I pulled up in front of the Goodwill like a refugee and literally started to go through all my boxes and saying, what am I really going to need right in this moment in my life? And so I took half the stuff out of my car, walked it into Goodwill, and then I went to the food pantry in town because I had 3 boxes of food. You know, when you move, you've got your food.
Yeah.
But I went to Trader Joe's because where I was going to go in Michigan, they didn't have a Trader Joe's. So I bought all this Trader Joe's stuff to take with me. And of course, what was I going to do with it? So then I walked into the food pantry in town and I took like 3 or 4 boxes of food in. And it made me so happy that people were going to have Trader Joe's food to eat. Like kids were going to have Trader Joe's hot chocolate and everything. And so that's like one of my favorite moments. Like people say, "Oh, what are the great things you've said or done?" And I'm like, this is one of my favorite moments, was just doing that, you know?
Because that was so about you and you're letting it go. I mean, that's God, that this is a made for TV movie.
It just felt good to, to let go of that stuff and to let people have stuff that needed it.
Mm, powerful. You need to get off this Zoom and start your Patreon today.
Okay. I've just been unsure about Patreon. I mean, I've just been. I mean, I kind of knew about it generally, but the way that you explained it, you have a gift for explaining things so concisely, and for mapping it out so clearly to take the mystery away and to make it seem doable. Whether you're a creator or whether you're coming on board to learn from you. So
It does need education because from the other side, you can't see anything on there. You know what I
no,
mean? It's kind of this catch 22. And it wasn't I was doing these and that woman was like, but I can't see anything. How do I know if I want to
yeah,
support you? And I was like, because I
yeah,
can see everything.
exactly, yeah. Yeah, so this demystifies it because it is. You kind of come to it. First off, it's this different name, Patreon,
Yeah.
whatever. And I mean, I get that, but then it's simple, but it's not. There's kind of like this whole, how does it really work? What am I supposed to do? And just what you were talking about, the flexibility that you could go between the tiers. I didn't know that. So thank you for just being so clear and conveying it so well.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for listening for the past hour. I'm sure you had better things to do.
No, this has been awesome.
Well, I hope you email me as soon as you're up and running, because I will be your first subscriber.
Okay, thank you.
Did anybody else have any questions, concerns? Once, twice. Well, I really thank you for sharing part of your afternoon with me. It is important as the world is changing and supporting art, and life is just not about art galleries anymore. We're all making a hustle somehow, doing what we love. I mean, Olivia, if you weren't testament to it right there, of following your passion and changing the course of your future. And I just want to be a part of that communication. I want to be a part of that story. I think I spent too much time not being a part of the greater narrative of the life I was living. And I want to walk that, and be that support for other artists that maybe I walked that path alone because there wasn't someone to reach out and support me. So if at any point you have questions, I want you to feel free to reach out to me. I am accessible through Donna at donnadowney.com, but you can go anywhere and probably get access to me. I'm also going to put in, I don't know if you have gone there in the last couple days, but I'm putting in the chat here a link to, this is a free lesson that I just posted on Patreon. So if you go to that link, you can see, I just did a mixed media watercolor lesson. This way you can see what it's like when you go to Patreon. This is just one post, but certainly get your hands dirty in feeling around at what Patreon is. So if you either link on that, click on it, or copy it, you can have access to that watercolor lesson. And I'm thankful that you were here. And again, just want to say, when you have questions, I probably should write it here, Donna at donnadowney.com. Typically, my patrons will reach out to me through Patreon or email or in the comments. I'm usually like that to responses when anybody has a question. So thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Be well.
Thank
You too.